Home oxygen services are used by millions of people around the world, and the service provides a massive relief to so many patients with medical conditions. But if oxygen comes into contact with fire, the combination can be deadly. Home oxygen users need to be aware of the dangers and take sensible precautions. Oxygen itself isn't flammable, and home oxygen services are perfectly safe as long as the manufacturer's recommendations are followed. But the combination of oxygen and fire can be lethal. It's all down to basic chemistry. In order to create fire, 3 elements are needed: heat, fuel, and oxygen. The more oxygen there is in the air, the more fiercely things will burn, and they will do so at a higher temperature. And while the air that we breathe is around 21% oxygen, medical oxygen for home use can be up to 100% pure.
Fires in the home, of course, have been reducing dramatically, and now I'm delighted that they're at the lowest some 50 years. But there is still some concern because the risk of use of oxygen in the home adds a particular element to the fire. And both the oxygen suppliers and the Fire and Rescue Service have noted the increased trend of people continuing to smoke whilst using oxygen, and the alarming number of those fires that have caused tragic results. The Home Oxygen Suppliers Networking Group has provided a real focus to take some of this work forward, working with all of those partners that are both involved in providing oxygen and providing safety. And we're seeing some really good notable practice in a number of fire and rescue services, but particularly in places like West Yorkshire and Merseyside and Cheshire and Essex, who are all actively promoting this work as part of their home risk checks that they carry out throughout the community, and particularly at those that are most vulnerable from fire.
The working group comprises of government, communities, local government, Department of Health, fire rescue services, and the oxygen suppliers themselves, and it is a collaborative approach designed to help raise awareness, and in particular to target professionals working with people using oxygen. And I think that what we're doing through this working group now is an excellent example of fire rescue service in their prevention activity. It is recognising a problem, it is bringing together collaboratively all of the partners that we need to rectify and address the problem, and to proactively take that work forward.
The partnerships between the oxygen providers and the Fire and Rescue Service and government agencies is vitally important, and I think there's an understanding now about the hazards of oxygen in the home and the need for Fire and Rescue Services to work very, very closely with those agencies to ensure both the clients and people who live in the vicinity are kept safe.
The companies that supply oxygen for home use, Air Products, BOC and Air Liquide, have put their full weight behind raising awareness and have funded the making of this DVD.
It's an absolute privilege to be working for the Home Oxygen Service. It's a service that has enriched the lives of so many people around the world.
Raising awareness of keeping patients safe whilst using oxygen equipment is very important. There are very simple rules to follow to keep everybody safe.
As a supplier, we're committed to ensuring communication on patient safety through patient forums, which we carry out maybe 18 to 20 of a year, where we educate patients and show them the hazards around the house.
We all have a part to play in preventing fires caused by carelessness around oxygen. That includes fire and rescue services and professionals who work with home oxygen users. And additional information aimed specifically at them is provided in the other sections of this DVD. But what about the users themselves, their families, friends, and anyone else who visits them? What can they do to prevent accidents which could be avoided? Well, of course, everyone, whether they're an oxygen user or not, should pay the closest possible attention to basic fire safety. Keeping door keys in an easily accessible place, making sure exits aren't blocked, closing doors, keeping electrical equipment maintained, making sure sockets aren't overloaded, being careful when cooking, fitting smoke detectors and testing them regularly. But users of home oxygen need to take extra care because of the extra hazards posed by an oxygen-rich atmosphere. As we've seen, it's not the oxygen itself that's flammable, that just allows fires to burn. The fire itself is caused by heat igniting fuel. Take either of those two away and a fire can't begin. So what steps can be taken to reduce the risk of fire in homes where oxygen is being used?
The issues concerned with regards to this will be such as smoking, that also there will be storage of combustible materials. Obviously, with a fire loading in a property, could be extremely dangerous, particularly if the patient has mobility issues, which they almost certainly will if they're a patient using oxygen. Cooking habits, again, what we would try and avoid is a naked flame. So if you could cook with electricity rather than the gas, that would be preferable. Other things that we would try and avoid would be candles, and as I say, anything that uses a naked flame.
When using home oxygen, it's important that patients think about what they're doing and what processes they're carrying out, and it's very important that they don't wear their face mask or cannula when carrying out tasks involving naked flames or cooking.
We had an incident not so long ago in the county where a gentleman who was doubly incontinent and wheelchair bound died by dropping a cigarette onto his incontinent pants, which is obviously very tragic. As we know, the vast majority of people that die in fires die through smoke inhalation. Unfortunately, this gentleman died through direct burning, which is tragic. There's a possibility that the cigarettes were left for him, but by an outsider, obviously with the best intentions, because his quality of life was so poor. Unfortunately, that is what killed him. So in effect, he was killed by kindness. What we were suggesting in that situation, if smoking materials are going to be provided at all, which preferably they won't be, but if they are, then perhaps that person could stay with the patient while they actually smoke them.
Should the home oxygen user be a smoker, it's advisable to do a few things before they light up. The first thing will be to remove any equipment that they're wearing, so any face masks or any cannulas should be removed. Secondly, they should turn off any of the oxygen concentrators or bottles. Thirdly, if at all possible, they should go outside to aerate their clothing and their hair. If there are any visitors to the property that are smokers, they should undertake the same routine of going outside and aerating the clothing before having a cigarette.
People should be aware that heat sources do not just generally come from a naked flame. Static heat sources are all around the home, whether it be the friction of materials, televisions or hairdryers. So people using oxygen therapy really have to be aware that these heat sources can affect when it's saturated atmosphere of oxygen.
Great care needs to be taken with oxygen equipment. It should be serviced regularly. Users should never change the delivery settings, and the equipment should always be switched off when it's not in use. And it's important to store any cylinders safely.
It's important that they realise that there are storage issues with the cylinders. In other words, cylinders should be a minimum of 3 metres away from a naked flame and a minimum, again, of 1.5 metres away from any heat source.
I can't stress enough how important it is for the carers and the patients to actually follow the guidelines of the suppliers with regards to the ventilation of both the concentrators and the cylinders.
Fire breaks will be fitted on every piece of home oxygen equipment. How the fire break works is, should there be a fire in the property, once it reaches the fire break, it seals the tube and stops the supply of oxygen to the user. The obvious benefit of this is it reduces the spread of fire throughout the property and reduces damage.
Home oxygen users should also have additional smoke detectors fitted.
Home fire safety checks are carried out across the UK by fire and rescue services, and it's really easy to get one done today. Just contact your local fire and rescue service, they'll make the appointment that's convenient for you.
It's worth saying again, home oxygen services enhance the quality of patients' lives, and they're perfectly safe when used properly. By following the manufacturer's recommendations and taking sensible precautions, scenes like this, and this, and this can be avoided. If you have any cause for concern about home oxygen services or any questions, then contact the home oxygen service supplier for your region or your local PCT. They'll be happy to help. The safety of home oxygen users is everyone's concern.